It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Tuesday, October 31st, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Provi In The Media, the practical word study, and of course, commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? And how was your Monday? Yes, we are getting into the meat of the week. Don't forget, we have Q&A every single Thursday, so get those questions ready and send them to me whenever you can. If you haven't yet, go ahead, leave a like and comment to build our community. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. Let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title, here we go, Judgment and Destruction for Satan and the Evil. All right, so everyone, it is Halloween, so let me start with a Halloween intro. Good morning and welcome to the Scary Halloween podcast on 117.8. Today we will not be talking about God, but Satan and all the wickedly evil things he has done this year. Sit back and enjoy this sinfully delightful show and let the demons and ghosts come into this show. Oh, be afraid. This frightful show that will have you disobeying God and the man of mission. I'm sorry, guys. I just had to do it. It's Halloween, October 31st. No one's really celebrating. Oh, I don't know. So I know the people with kids are probably celebrating it, but I just wanted to do an interesting intro to my podcast here while I'm in Korea. And I'm going to tell you this. I have another excuse for why I did this crazy intro. It's because I've actually never done a podcast this late in the evening. It's like it's past 9:30 p.m. And like I said, it's like a new schedule. I'm doing this late evening podcast. Very different feeling. I'm like in the boonies right now. Like even if I shouted at the top of my lungs, I don't think there's anyone who would actually hear me if I even went outside and started screaming, right? Maybe just dogs would start barking, but a different feeling. Because, when I do it in the morning, when I do this podcast recording in the morning, it's the morning. I have to think about the day before, the things I realized, but having this in the late evening, it's very different because I've gone through an entire day. Things are fresh in my heart and my mind. It's just much different. So, I'm just here thinking about all the things I just did today, and I'm a little bit more tired than usual because this is a late night, like a late evening podcast too. But this will be, it's recorded in the evening, but you guys will be hearing this on Tuesday morning. So, what happened to me today? First time in Wonmyeongdong in about 4 years. Last time I came was like 2019, right? And I was here from like January until May, around that time for about 5 months. But yeah, it's been such a long time. And I'm telling you guys right now, Wonmyeongdong is so different from the last time I was here. It's so different. Like, the last time I was here, I think the Holy Spirit waterfall was still in process or just getting finished. Like, that's the last time I was here. And there is so much more construction going on. It is magnificently, beautifully, fabulously amazing right now. Like, it's so different. The one thing I was so shocked by is like Sunseem's new house. It's kind of like the same style as the old house, but it's huge. Like, it's gigantic, and it's like a palace. It really is. It's beautiful too. So, Sunseem's new house, magnificent, and I know he's gonna be able to live in there too. It will not be made in vain. So, yeah, it was interesting. I went into Wonmyeongdong. It was pretty early in the morning, around, like, not early, but around 9 a.m. Maybe not even 9 a.m. So, I walked around and I was trying to figure out where's a good place that I can greet the Holy Trinity. Like, hey, I'm here in Korea kind of thing. We got to greet the Holy Trinity first. And I was like, oh, you know what? I should go into 316 into the sanctuary, but it was closed. So I was like, oh, where should I go? So I was kind of walking around. I saw the Ambition Masterpiece. I was like, you're not allowed to go up there anymore. So I ended up walking to the top of the grass lawn. And at the very, very top, there's like a fence there, but there's like seating there. So you can kind of just look over the grass lawn and you'll see like at the very end, in the background, you see like 316 building and stuff. And I just decided to pray over there. And it was interesting. It's like I was gonna make a joke. Like, I thought the most symbolic place I should go pray and greet the Trinity would be at the new cafe. But I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna say that. So I went to the top of the grass lawn. Just like there's just some seating there. You can enjoy the time in prayer. And I would tell you this is the moment I close my eyes and I'm calling on the Holy Trinity, there's like an overwhelming like peace inside my heart. It's just this overwhelming peace. There's this atmosphere and feeling that's incredibly serene. And what I liked about it even more is there are so few people there in Wonmyeongdong. Like so few. Like there's a bunch of workers and maybe, I think 10 people walking around, maybe, right? And that made it even more extra quiet and more peaceful. And for me, I was just like, having that peaceful time and having that peace in my heart, it allowed me to think and pray more carefully and deeply because of that peace. And it kind of reminds me of the difference of how, like when you go through life, sometimes we go through crazy stuff, right? Like this year, we went through some crazy difficulties and tribulations, and there's just so much noise inside your head. There's no peace. You're just like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And it's just really hard to think. Right? It's really hard to assess the situation, making the right decisions, discerning. It's hard when there's a ton of noise around. But when it's peaceful and quiet, there's no noise, then it's different because I can just carefully, slowly think about each and every situation, the things I really want to be thankful for, and just being in Wonmyeongdong, having that peace in my heart, it allowed me to have that peaceful prayer, right? That really, really peaceful prayer. So while I was praying, I had a couple feelings in my heart. Like the couple feelings I had was, I went to Canada for like 6 months to live with my parents. And I was really, really able to recover physically, exercise, have good food. But I, as I was praying, I realized in the same way, it's like when you go home, you get that peace, that comfort, and you can restore or recover, right? And in the same way, I got home, it felt like Wonmyeongdong is like my spiritual home. It is, right? It's my spiritual hometown. And the feeling I had there was this will be a time that I will be able to spiritually recover too. So just having that peace and safety in my heart. And I could say, like, the presence of God is so apparent. It was so apparent. And it was something that I just really felt like, wow, God, you're really here. Your presence is felt. And I could just kind of sit looking out into, like staring out into the sky or just looking at trees and such, and it would be fine. The only thing that wasn't fine was my knees. I guess I sound like an old guy, but walking down, coming back down the grass lawn, my knee was hurting, right? So I was like, wow, I really got to get, start hiking a little bit more. So that was really cool. But I think one of the things that God really answered my prayer, remember I kept telling you guys that it's like, it's so cold, it's so cold. So when I came to Wonmyeongdong in the morning, it was about 9 degrees. So it wasn't that cold. It's still cold, right? But it was 9 degrees. I'm wearing like a hoodie and a vest. I'm wearing long pants, everything else. But by 9:30, right? So we're talking like maybe half an hour, 45 minutes into coming to Wonmyeongdong, the temperature jumped to like 14 degrees within like 30, 40 minutes. And then by the time it hit the peak of the day, it went to like 19, 20 degrees. right? So for me, I was so thankful. I was like, God, you really heard my cries and my tears about how much I hate cold weather. And the weather's super nice in Warmingdong. I thought it would be much colder than Incheon and stuff. It was so nice. And just being there, the skies were clear. Just being able to be in that like the air is so clean. Like everything there is so nice. So yeah, I was really, really thankful that the weather was really good too. So I'm gonna plan to bring like 2 sets of clothes. If I go early enough in the morning, I'll bring some warm clothes. But as the day goes on, we got to wear more like summery clothes because it's gonna hit 21 degrees, right? So I gotta kind of prepare that when I go back to Warmingdong tomorrow. Like for me, I don't even have any plans. I'm not even sure what my plans are going to be. But I am really, really enjoying this time there. And I'm looking forward to some new experiences. And, it's a little bit more difficult. It's better and worse. Not worse, and difficult because I'm alone. I don't have a car, right? So it's kind of like both sides. I'm looking forward to new experiences, but I'm also alone. So it's like, I'm not sure, where I can go and such. But it's not too bad since I'm close to Warmingdong. It's a little bit difficult. Like I said, because I don't have a vehicle. But it's been nice so far. So I guess the big question people are going to ask is like, oh, did you go to the cafe? And absolutely. I went to the cafe and I ordered a latte. Now, before I get into how good the coffee was, I want to... I want to kind of state a couple things before we get into this, right? So the one thing that I know, when you go into the coffee shop, this is not a specialty coffee shop, right? So a lot of the so far I've been to 2-3 cafes so far, and most of the places I went to are not specialty coffee shops. Specialty coffee shops is like focused on serving super high quality coffee. And most of the places I've been to, it's just a place where you can buy coffee. It's like a regular cafe, just serves the general public. And it's not for people like me who are like super coffee snobs, right? So even Warmingdong Cafe is a regular cafe. It's got, the machines that are necessary. Not the expensive or high-level equipment. You're not going to have these high-level baristas there and stuff like that too. So the best thing about the Warmingdong Cafe is it's very, very nice interior. It's got a great view outside. It's got an outdoor sitting area also. And very clean, classy looking. Patio's very nice. You got a nice view of the 316 building, gazebo, the pond, right? And... the whole atmosphere of the cafe is very, very peaceful, very serene, very nice. And I'm, even when I was when I was at the cafe this morning preparing for the podcast, I was alone and just enjoying my time. All right. So that's kind of just the thing I wanted to talk about first is it's not like a specialty coffee shop. So my expectations are actually not super high. I went to another cafe today too. And that place, when I went in there also, it's not like a specialty coffee shop. Right, so they're not like roasting their own beans. They don't have all this high-level equipment. The baristas are not really like baristas, right? So I got the latte, and I would most likely give it like a 5.5. 5.5 around there, 5 to 5.5. But for me, I think one of the things I'm just super thankful for with this cafe in Warmingdong is that Sunsteam, Warmingdong is constantly upgrading, and Sunsteam went to this length to build a cafe that serves espresso and coffee in Warmingdong, right? Because remember, guys, in the past, coffee was like kind of banned in province before, especially, during the time we're preparing for the rapture. Like, whenever we drink coffee, we had to drink in secret. When we go watching movies, watching in secret, right? So even for me, when I used to watch movies in Korea, I had to go secretly go to a movie theater where like no one would go to, right? Where we know that there's not a lot of members there and stuff. And I'd watch it there like a couple times during my time when I was in Korea too. So for me, this is like a giant step forward, right? And what I also know about Sunsteam is this. as time goes on, everything gets upgraded higher and higher. So even for me, I know that, yeah, the coffee shop, great start. They got the machine there. They got a machine. They got a special machine. All the things that we need are there. And things are just going to get better and better. It's all in process. So I am being, just want to let you guys know that I'm being very careful with my words about Warmington Coffee. Especially because this week's message is about judgment and destruction. So I don't want to do anything that will warrant judgment and destruction in my life. So that's why I'm talking very nicely about stuff going on in Warmington. And I am kind of being very, very careful about my actions and my words, especially this week because of the message title. Like I said, you're kind of like, judgment and destruction. Those first two words in the Sunday message were just like, whoa, okay, we got to be careful this week. So yes, Warmington Coffee, I do give it a 5.5, but I come in with the understanding that I don't want to get judged. And I do know that the Warmington Cafe is going to get better and better. That's that's Providence itself. So it's going to get better, and I'm looking forward to it too. I was actually looking forward to going into the bathrooms also, the new bathrooms. Like people are saying how amazing it is. However, they were closed today. So since it was closed, I was like, oh, that's too bad. But when I get a chance, I'm gonna go into that bathroom and I'm gonna do what girls usually do and take pictures inside the bathroom. Right? So hopefully by the time in the next 2 weeks, it'll be opened at least once and I'll be able to go in and see how amazing those bathrooms are. Right? But you know what was so awesome today? One of the things that I was so moved and inspired by was, like, remember I said there's not a lot of people there, but we at the cafe I bumped into like 6-7 people from different parts of the world. I met some old friends from Japan. All of us were over 40, right? So we had many things in common. We've been in Providence for a long time. And it was so awesome. It was an amazing time together. We were talking in the cafe, and then we went out to eat lunch together. And then we went to a cafe after, another cafe after, and then we played some games. And then at the end of everything, my time with these Japanese members that I haven't seen in a long time, it was so crazy. 7 hours had passed by spending this time with these Japanese members that I used to run with in the past too. So it was really amazing to meet good old friends from around the world. And while we're in the cafe in Warmington, in the morning, there was another point where some other members came into the cafe too. And those members came into the cafe and they're from another country. And I would tell you this is one of the most amazing things about Providence, or just being in Warmington in general. It was seriously like the ideal world. It really was. Like there was 7-8 of us all sitting together in the cafe from 3-4 different countries. And all of us were speaking together in Korean. Tell me that's crazy. It was like we gathered in this cafe from all these different countries, but we were speaking the heavenly language, right? Like we could all communicate with each other, have no problems. We understood each other. It was so amazing not having any barriers, right? And we just sat there like, it's like the what do you call it? Like the parable of the animal kingdom, right? All these different animals come together. They eat from the same straw. 3-4 different countries just meeting in the cafe. And guess what? We're all speaking Korean. Like it was crazy. It was such a mix mash of languages because I would talk to someone in English, then we'd talk in Korean, and then someone else would talk in Japanese, and it was such an amazing feeling to be able to come together and we all just spoke in Korean and not having any barriers in our communication. I found that to be just crazy amazing to me. And I'm gonna tell you guys out there too, if you're new to Providence or if you're someone who hasn't learned Korean yet, like it seriously is the universal language we have in Providence. It was just so mind-boggling to me that you kind of look around, everyone looks different. We're not all from the same country, and our original, like the language of our countries are like 3-4 different languages. Asian language, Japanese language, English. It was like there's no way we should be able to communicate with each other. But not only on top of communicating with each other, but we all come from, like, we all listen to the same words. So our conversations are so amazing. Like, we're talking about the word. We're talking about what's happening in Provi. Oh, gosh, there's something really funny, though. The funny thing is that whenever we started meeting more people, guess what the first thing we said to each other when we're meeting? It was so funny. We're kind of like, oh, you're still alive? Oh, you're still here? Like, that's the first thing we said when we met each other. It was funny and sad at the same time because we know what happened this year. But it was because, this is like not too far off from the spiritual Oppenheimer we had. So the big topic, we're like, oh, you're still living. Oh, wow, I'm so thankful you're still in Providence, kind of thing, right? And of course, the big topic is like, after the spiritual Oppenheimer, we're just asking each other what happened in each other's countries. We're asking about other people we know in each country, and it's constantly asking things like, hey, is this person still here? Oh, is that person still here? And of course, yes, it's a sad thing, but my point is we all come from the same cloth. We all went through the exact same thing, and we're all communicating and talking about these things. Right? And it was totally not negative conversation. Like, most of us here on MSD, we're talking with each other and we're talking about the situation all the time. So it's like we're kind of numb to it and we're not having that negative feeling, but we know what's going on. We're curious. We want to see how everyone's doing and stuff too. So it was kind of like normal conversation. For me, let me tell you what it's like for me as a guy. As a guy, the feeling of the conversation is like talking to guys after playing sports. Like, imagine we just finished a soccer game, right? And then after the soccer game, what do guys do? We talk to each other like, hey, did you win? Oh, who scored? Oh, anyone get injured? Oh, who had a good game? Oh, and how was it for you? Like, that's what it kind of felt like, is like after the game was finished, we're asking each other all these questions, and we're kind of like, we all have different information. So we're like, putting the pieces of the puzzle together, like, oh, I didn't know. I didn't know that either, right? It was really, for me, it was just amazing. Yeah. It was that feeling of, like, we talk about something that's a bad situation, but because we've been through everything together, it wasn't negative or bad. It was like a regular conversation, but it was funny, though, because every time someone walked in, you're still in Providence. Oh, you're still alive, right? Oh, I'm so happy you're still here. So that was quite funny funny and sad, but it was quite funny that was like the first thing that we kept saying to each other too. So, what I find very interesting too, though, is like, because some of these people listen to this podcast, right? I find it really interesting that when I talk to people who listen to this podcast, is like I talk to them and they know my life so well, right? Because, on the podcast, they hear what I'm doing. They hear when when on this podcast, I talk about what I did that day. I bring, and I talk about all these things that happen and such. And the thing that's kind of weird for me is because when I do this podcast, I don't have an audience. I'm not literally talking to a person. I'm talking into a mic, right? So here I am talking into a mic, and it's almost like I'm talking, like I'm speaking my thoughts out loud. Like, that's what the feeling is like when I'm doing this podcast. I'm kind of just saying things on my mind, what's going on, what I realized and such. But it's so interesting because when people listen to this podcast, it's almost like they're listening to my mind. So when I talk to these people, I'm like, oh, I did this. I'll say like, oh, you know what I did yesterday? And they'll tell me straight up, oh, yeah, I know you stopped by Incheon. Oh, did you find any good coffee? Oh, what'd you think about this? Oh, what do you? Oh, I can't wait till you taste Warmington coffee. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like going, how do they know all this? But it's because they listen to the podcast, and I'm basically speaking my thoughts out loud. So when people come to me and know what's going on in my life, it's so strange to me. I'm like, how do they know? Like, even the stuff I put on Instagram, There's like, today I went to the second coffee shop and I gave them a 5.5 out of 10 too. So not a very good score, right? People would write to me and say, hey, did you post this after you left? And I'm like, how do they know? But I'm like, oh, it was on the podcast too. And a lot of times, like after I do the podcast, I don't remember everything I said. So when they say those things in my head, I'm like, are they stalking me? Like, are they following me? But it's just because I say all this stuff on my podcast. So yeah, it's really, really interesting to me because it's like everyone knows my life, but I don't know their life. Right? So it almost feels like you guys are reading my mind. I'm like, how did they know? But it's because I put everything on my podcast. So I found that to be quite interesting and funny too. Like when I was noticing this, talking to people who hear my podcast. But I want to tell you that I really feel that just being in Wonmyeongdong and just being in Korea, like I told you, like even yesterday in Incheon, how God is working through people so that I can feel God's love. You know what I mean? Like even today, we met the Japanese people. It wasn't definitely not by mistake. We were just talking, having a great time, laughing, talking about the things that have happened so far. But after we went to go have lunch together and with my Japanese friends, and we went to this members restaurant, and they have this amazing smoked samgyeopsal, and we were like, wow, this is so good. We're eating, and then the owner at the end, we'd be greeting each other and stuff like that too. At the end, they're like, hey, you don't have to pay for it. We're like, what? We just ordered like 7 orders of samgyeopsal. How can, and I was so moved by it. Like everything that's happening to me here, I can really feel God's love. Like I feel like God is trying to tell me through all these small experiences here and there, like, hey, this is how much I truly love you. This is how much I'm taking care of you. So I don't want you to worry. And that was something that I was just one thing after another, I am being blessed here. I really am being blessed. So, I couldn't believe that they would just give us like free food. Like we ordered a lot too, and it's meat. But I was so shocked by it. I was like, wow, thank you, God. You are really blessing me, and I really feel God's love while I'm here in Korea. And I think God wants us to really feel how much He loves us. He wants us to feel it because it's been a hard year, and we've survived, right? I got to get that clothing line out. I survived 2023. I got to get that out pretty soon, or else I'll miss the timing. But those would be kind of cool clothes to have. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good clothing line. Survival 2023. I survived 2023. I don't know if you guys have any other slogans or things that you might want to put on. Go ahead. Or you know what, we put Survive, like that TV show Survivor. We can go Survivor 2023, whatever it is. But I think it's going to be something where, I think it's going to be such an awesome thing when this year ends, and we're all going to look back and say, God, there was no way we could have survived this year without you. Right? And for all of you guys out there who've been helping each other, praying for each other and stuff, God's blessings, there's going to be crazy blessings. There really, really is. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of all the things I wanted to talk about in this first segment. So I hope you guys really enjoying this time in this podcast. Some of you are driving to work, some of you are going to school, and some of you are like cleaning or cooking at home too. So I hope you guys are enjoying this podcast thus far. All right, so let's move into the first break of the day.
I'll be with you in every way. Every moment of every day, I will be there to give you strength. God has filled me with His overflowing love. It's a love that flows unending each day.
is a story of our love, every moment of my life, a thankful melody. He is my past, my present, my future without end. So I offer songs of love to my one and only God now.
Hallelujah, glory to our one and only God. Hallelujah, praise and glory to our only God. He keeps treating me in all the best ways. He keeps loving me unlike any other. Now that I've realized I wanna move the heart of God. It's only our God. He is the center of all our praise. He is the reason we sing forever. I'll sing His praises with all of my heart. He is the center of all our praise. He is the reason we sing forever. To our eternal God alone, we sing the songs of our love. He is the center of all our praise. He is the reason we sing forever. I'll sing His praises with all of my heart. He is the center of all our praise. He is the reason we sing forever. To our eternal God alone, we sing the songs of our love. Hallelujah, glory to our one and only God. Hallelujah, praise and glory to our only God. Hallelujah, glory to our one and only God. Hallelujah, praise and glory to our only God. Praise and glory to our only God.
All right, so let's get into today's words. You know what? Before I get into the word study, you know the song we just hear, I Want to Move His Heart? Okay, I'm not sure if you guys will ever be able to unhear this, but when I hear the chorus of that song, it reminds me of the song from Justin Timberlake called Mirrors. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. No? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I told a couple people this and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot unhear that." Whenever you hear that song, I swear I keep hearing the song Mirrors by Justin Timberlake, and that's just running through my mind. But either way, I don't even know why I said that, but let's get into today's word study. And of course, today is the practical word study. And there's a couple things I want to talk about. One is about internet ministry too, but the first thing I want to talk about that has to do with this week's message. It talks about, this week's message is about what is the greatest sin. The greatest sin is to disobeying God. Okay? And of course, that sounds a little bit extreme. Like, what do you mean by disobeying God? And I know that people can become extreme too when they hear a message like this. So the thing that I want to separate today, the things that we should be understanding is, what are the things that we should be absolutely obeying? Now, of course, we should be absolutely obeying everything that God says, everything the Man and Mission says, but we need to know the severity of each. Okay, now what does that mean? So there's going to be great sins. Like, these are the things that literally affect your salvation. Right? It's going to affect your salvation, and it's going to be something where it's going to be very, very difficult for you to get back on the horse, right? Because these are like the fatal ones. So what were some of the things that we need to absolutely obey? And number one is, of course, the great sins would be like, one of the biggest of all is believing in God, right? You never want to get yourself into a point where you stop believing in God. Like, that's a great sin. You must believe in God, right? Of course, that goes hand in hand with believing in the one that God sent. And that's in this week's message, where a lot of people may believe in God, but they don't believe in the one that God sends. And that is, then the first part is negated, because it's not just believing in God, it's also believing in the one that God sent. Okay? Second thing is, this is, of course, another great sin, which is the fall, right? And we don't want to fall in heart and body, right? In both your heart and body. That's another thing that, especially the body here as we live on this earth, we don't want to break that sin, to fall in your heart and your body, right? Another one that's like one of these great sins is, I would say, it's going to be following the vital direction of the Lord. So what does it mean by vital? Because, there's some things that that the Lord will say that is very specific, and they are not subjective. Like, what does that mean? Okay? So like in the past, there's things like something straight up. He's like, do not lend your credit card to other members. Like, there is no if, ands, or buts. And the way Sunsi put it is, if you're going to lend money, think of it that you're not lending. Just give it. You're better off just giving the money than going through the trouble of lending your credit card or borrowing money from members, right? You're far better off just giving it away, or else there's going to be some trouble that happens in the future, right? Like, that's something very, very specific, because a lot of problems happen there. Like, don't do things in the Lord's name unless you actually discuss with the Lord. It's not something where you just say, oh, I prayed and the Lord said this, so let's do this from now on, right? So, or don't listen to people who say they are doing things in my name, right? Don't cause, he'll talk very specifically about the disharmonies that are caused in church, the things you shouldn't be doing, right? And, of course, another big one is you must discuss before making decisions, right? So, these are something a little bit more specific, and these are the things that requires our obedience. Right? Now, there are things that are a little bit more subjective, or it does not affect salvation, which means it kind of depends on the situation and circumstance, right? Because some things affect people in one country, but doesn't affect people in other countries, right? So if you want to talk about like the sins that don't lead to death, that's like 1 John chapter 5, verse 16 and 17, that Paul talks about, if you see someone sin, all sin is wrong, right? All wrongdoing is sin, but not all lead to death, right? Like in the past, he's like, don't drink coffee, right? Don't eat ramen, don't drink Coke. Like, those types of things are more about health, right? And if you don't follow those, it doesn't mean you're going to hell. You know what I mean? So some of these things need discernment. So there are some things that don't need discernment, right? And some things that, some things are absolute, and they are, like the fall, that is absolute, right? There's these things that are absolute. We cannot do those things, and those are the things that we don't want to disappoint God in. Like, I would even say, like, one of the big absolutes that if we are in providence is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And that was also in the Sunday message too, right? And if you want to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, then that requires us to do certain things like pre-dawn. It requires us to do certain things like, in the messages, like if you don't pray, you're dead. There's no communication. How can you have a relationship without prayer? Prayer is an absolute. Repenting is an absolute, right? Those are things that we have to do, right? Now, there's other things that we have to discern. But what happens is some people will not discern, and they end up becoming strict with every single thing that Sunsim says, and they make providence into a place where people feel trapped and frustrated, because it's almost like a helicopter parent, right? Some things, let the kids go through it, right? Let the kids go through it. It's going to be fine. They're going to hurt. They're going to fall over a bit, but that's okay, right? And then, the helicopter parent won't allow, they'll put the children into a bubble, and they won't allow the children to do anything, right? But we have to realize that what Sunsim says is for our benefit. But some things, if we don't do it, it's not going to be like you're going to hell, right? Not everything. There are the absolute things that we have to keep in mind, like, okay, I can't do this, I can't do that. And these are things that I absolutely obey, right? And then there are the things we need to discern country by country, culture by culture, right? Like even when I talked about yesterday about speakers, preachers are different from country to country. And because the preachers are different, when Sunstein talks about variation, when Sunstein talks about speaking slowly, Sunstein talks about speaking clearly, it is different from country to country. It really is. Like if you think about even me right now, those of you guys who speak English, I speak pretty fast, but it's not like you can't understand me. You know what I mean? Like you can understand exactly what I'm saying. So here's the thing. When I preach a Sunday message, do I slow it down like this? And the answer is no, because it's actually harder to listen for people like in the English world. If you're a native speaker, even the speed that I speak right now is fine. And if I preach like this, I might be a little bit more deliberate, but I'm not going to slow down that much. You know what I mean? So it's not like when I'm speaking normally, people can't understand me, but it's really weird when you have like people, like I would say like what happened in the past, like especially when I was a preacher, it was the Koreans would say to me, "You're speaking too fast," but the Westerners would be like, "That was great." And you see there's a big difference because, we have to understand it culture by culture, language by language, right? There's not all of this is going to be it's not going to, even though we're supposed to speak slowly and clearly, you can still speak fast and very clear. And everyone will still understand exactly what you're saying. And that's fine. That's okay. Right? So I do think that there needs to be, like when people are checking different countries, there needs to be native speakers that are like checking people's preaching because it's way different, right? How a native speaker understands what people are saying compared to someone who's from a foreign country or different culture, way different. It's really, really different. So that's something where some things we have to discern really well. Right? So that's like one of the things that I was thinking about right now is sometimes we need to be able to understand the difference between something that is absolute, that's going to affect our salvation, compared to something that's more about our health. It's more about what is best, what's going to be the best for our life. You know what I mean? And even if you disobeyed, it wouldn't crush your spirit kind of thing. Yes, you would be affected in other areas, but it wouldn't affect your salvation kind of thing. So that's something I do think we do have to think about, and we have to be those that are kind of separating some of these, the obedience. You know what I mean? We got to separate some of these things. Some things are not going to fit in certain cultures and countries and stuff. It's just different, right? So I hope it's something that all of us will become very mature in, and be able to discern really well in also. Now, the second thing I really want to talk about today was about internet ministry. Okay, so I've been able to, I went to service, and then I watched after service there were people doing internet ministry, like there was like contests and stuff going on at this church, and there's some things I do think that if you're ever thinking about doing internet ministry, there are some things you really, really, I'll give you some advice that will help you out. Okay? Because all the internet ministry I saw here in Korea so far is the exact same thing. It's on Instagram or YouTube, and all it is making videos with pictures and like lyrics on it, and they do a voiceover. They'll put subtitles, and it's just going to be a voiceover. It's sharing the Proverbs or the Sunday message points. Okay? And it's like I saw 8 different channels like on this contest, and they were all the exact same thing, the same style. So I'm going to give you a couple things. The first thing I think that's very important, if you want to have a channel that's going to have a higher chance of doing well, you need to put your face on it, right? There needs to be a face to the channel. It can't just be pictures. It can't just be like these Proverbs with subtitles on it. People want to see a face. Audiences feel connected to a person, right? They're going to like the person first, and then they're going to like the content, right? So to have a higher chance, people want to connect to someone. They really do. They have to see a face. So you'll have a much, much higher chance of having a YouTube channel or an Instagram channel that will get higher views or more people subscribing if your face is on it, having a face. The second thing I would have to say is, depending on, like, say, Instagram or YouTube, how many times should you be posting? And if you're on Instagram, you should be posting every day, sometimes 2 to 3 times a day, in order for you to gain traction. If you're on YouTube, minimum once a week, but I would say 2 to 3 times a week. And it has to be the same day every week at the same time, so audiences know exactly when to expect your new content. So that's the second thing I would say is consistency, and it should be consistent every time. Okay? Third thing, super important for your social media, audio and video quality are super important even before your content. So what happens is when people watch YouTube, right, or Instagram, well, more so for YouTube more than Instagram, right? But YouTube is very clean, clear sound. The audio has to be really good, and the video quality has to be nice. If they're not, people will just automatically switch and change to something else. They're not even going to listen to the content. It has to look good first, right? And if you want really good video, you need good lighting. If you don't have good lighting, then it doesn't matter how good your camera is, it's not going to turn out very well. So if you don't have good audio or video, then people are going to skip your content and not even look at what you're saying. Last but not least is going to be your content. Okay? So if you want to gain a lot of traction, what's going to happen with your content is this. First, find the things you want to talk about. And if we're talking about the word, then talk about the word. Do a variety of things about the word. And if you want traction, you are not speaking the things that you want to say. You have to see what the audience wants to hear. So let me give an example. Let's just say you do 10, 20 videos. Look at the videos that get the most views or the ones that go viral and stay on that topic. And that's following the trend of your channel, right? Don't sit there thinking, I want to talk about what I want to talk about. No. Talk about the things, go into the subject of what you want to talk about, come up with multiple and variety of different topics or whatever, however you want to do it. And from there, what's going to happen next is look and see what your audience really wants to hear about, right? Find out what your audience wants to hear about. And when you have a viral video, like, oh my gosh, it's got 10,000 views, 20,000, 40,000 views, what does that mean? It means that from that point on, you should start focusing on that subject of that viral video, right? Find what your audience likes, and then whatever you find, keep doing more of it. Why? Because if you want remember, it's about the audience. You want to get more subscribers, you have to follow what the audience likes, not what you like, right? And that's why I'd be like, yeah, you don't want to go into, you don't want to get into the trap of, no, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about that. No, look at your subject, find multiple topics in it, try all of them, and as you're trying them, you're going to have more traction for one topic more than the other, and focus on those topics, okay? So yeah, that's kind of the thing I want to talk about. Those 4 things I want to talk about when it comes to social media and like starting your own channel and such. You have to be very, very savvy about how you're going to do this. Okay. So there it is, guys. That is today's practical word study. Hope it's something that you guys gained and learned a lot from, which means we are going to move into the second break of the day.
Just as a warm spring breeze thaws out the frozen ground, you came to me like springtime, and then you embraced my heart. Your words became a song, like a poem in my heart. They came just like a letter, and they opened up my heart. That heart of true sincerity, and all the stories shared between you and I are like gifts from up above, just the way we are now. Let's converse together, let's protect each other. and we'll sing of all the same dreams. Just as a river shines and sparkles in the sun, you came to me like sunlight, and you brightened up my heart. Although the setting sun so briefly paints the sky, the beauty and inspiration I'm feeling lingers in my heart. That heart of true sincerity, and all the stories shared between you and I are like gifts from up above, just the way we are now. Let's converse together, let's protect each other as we comfort one another. Let's follow that one voice that leads us to God, and we'll sing of all the same dreams. Just the way we are now. Let's converse together. Let's protect each other as we comfort one another. Let's follow that one voice that leads us to God, and we'll sing of all the same dreams.
Just the way we are now. Let's converse together. Let's protect each other as we comfort one another. Let's follow that one voice that leads us to God, and we'll sing of all the same dreams.
And we'll sing of all the same dreams.
Okay, so let's get into today's final segment, which is Provi in the Media. What's the news going on right now with the trial and the different things going on? And I have two articles. One of them I kind of touched upon it on Friday when it comes to the appeals, but I'll read the official article there. But a new thing just came out with the producer of the Netflix documentary, right? So the one who made the producer of the Netflix documentary, he went on some type of talk show, and this is what he talked about. Okay, so these are a couple of things that he talked about. So the first thing he said was, it was revealed that Sunstein, president of CGM, received photos of young women in prison. On the 30th, NBC producer who produced the Netflix documentary I Am God about JMS additionally accused him of his actions on NBC Radio's Kim Jong-bae's Focus, right? So what did this producer said? He said, Sunstein, who received the photos, said something I could not bear to say out loud, and confirmed that there was a real female minor victim, he said. At the same time, he said there was a lot of handwritten letters from Sunstein along with strange photos that did not suit the location, like in the religious headquarters, and photos of female genitals. And he said the content of the letters was that he received photos of female genitals while incarcerated in prison and spoke about them. So this producer then said, I will read the lowest level ones as is. And then he starts like talking from this letter. And like you guys will attest that is this really Sunsteam's writing style? So this is what he read one of the letters, and it said this: let's preach to the pretty bitches's. Of course, then there's a bad word in there, is more enjoyable to watch. And then the producer's like, oh, I can't bear to read much more of the serious ones. It's too serious. And in response, the host of the show interrupted the conversation saying, let's stop here and consider, this is a broadcast and communication, so please don't, go any further, right? So my personal opinion on this is, out of nowhere now, he's, this producer's coming out, he was quiet for a long time. But he's saying that there's absolute evidence, like this is absolute his handwriting, right? And that this minor, it's proven that this minor was actually, assaulted, whatever, like she's a victim kind of thing, right? And it's actually in court. So the question here is, if the evidence is that damning, then why isn't that person going to take Sunsteam to trial? Why are these two foreigners on trial right now? And yet these two accusers right now seem to have the weakest evidence, right? Because that Netflix audio is now fake, right? So, even for me, when it comes to handwritten letters by Sunsteam, since March, how many times did we hear about a letter from Sunsteam in his hand, like that's handwritten, and then later find out that forensics said it's fake? It's like 99% chance of being fake. And that's why for me, it's quite a stretch just to say that there is absolute evidence and we have handwritten letters from Sunsteam. My question would be, has it been through forensics? Right? Is it really from Sunsteam? Has it been through forensics? Right? So for me, it looks like it's very desperate because, if this was absolutely true, then wouldn't there be something already said in the past about this, but they're saying this only now? Right? So that's why for me it just seems like a desperate thing because, we're doing petitions and we're going out and having these protests and stuff like that too. So I find that to be quite interesting that this is coming out now. Right? So that's one thing. So that producer did go on I guess it's a radio show and talked about this. The second one is going to be about the appeals, right? So all 6 people, including KJS, who helped with Sunsteam's crime, prosecutors appeal against an unfair sentencing. So the prosecution filed an appeal against 6 assistants, including KJS, right? And on the 26th, the Daejeon District Prosecutor's Office filed an appeal against 6 helpers, including KJS, who was sentenced to 7 years in prison in the first trial on charges of quasi-rape, and also the Civil Affairs Bureau Director, who was sentenced to 3 years. Now, there's another article that goes even deeper, saying that both sides have appealed against the 7 years in prison. So the prosecution and the defendant both disagreed with the ruling and appealed. So think about that. It wasn't just one side. Prosecution and defendant have both disagreed with the ruling and appealed. So according to the legal community on the 26th, the Daejeon District Prosecutor's Office filed an appeal on the 26th citing the unfairness of the original trial that sentenced KJS, who was arrested and indicted on charges of quasi-rape, right? So appeals were also submitted against KJS and the remaining 5 key executives, including the director of the Civil Affairs Bureau and the director of the IMD, International Missions Bureau, right? So we see that these things are happening. I'm super happy about the appeals going on because that has to be appealed. And it's a good sign to hear that both sides, the prosecution and the defense, are both appealing the ruling, that it's unfair. So I think that's a great sign that these appeals are happening on both sides there too. All right. So guys, the fight is on still. It's a spiritual war. And, we thought, we can't be thinking to ourselves as, after that 200,000 people protest, everything's going to go well. No, we still got to pray. We still got to fight the good fight. We know that they're going to come back and try to attack us again, but we have to be strong. We have to pray, and we have to make sure that we don't lose steam in this prayer so that we can make sure that everyone really, really make sure that history is made and that a miracle will happen in 2023. That, like Sanseem said, 2023 is the year we get out of tribulation, and let's pray so that God's will actually happens. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is the ending of Provi in the Media. Hope you guys really enjoyed that and you have more things to pray about. I hope that everyone is going to have an amazing and awesome Tuesday. Yes, my second day in Korea. Hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. And the sound is pretty clear in this room that I'm in right now, isn't it? But everyone, enjoy, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm